Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, 'tis I think. Actually, this is the second time I started the show today because I forgot to press the button that gets us going, and I think I'm on. Good God in heaven. I think I'm on. But that remains to be seen. Had a difficulty. Thank you, Mord. I had a difficulty yesterday, the likes of which I'd never seen before. And then Kevin, my savior, my white and shining armor from City Paper, came by, and he was flummoxed as well. He said, "What? Never saw this before." So we're always creating new ways to screw up the show. It's just astonishing. Now, here's the thing. It's Tuesday, which normally would be Sue's day, but it's Monday to me since I didn't get to do the show yesterday. So Sue's will be here tomorrow, and that's that. There is so much going on that one really doesn't even know where to begin. But that's my usual Monday plaint. I guess the big news today. Well, the big news is those fires. Nothing can top those until they're under control. I'm just sickened. But the other big news besides the fire is obviously being able to read Jack Smith's report, which Trump, in one of the few losses in the legal realm, even though he attempted to keep us from seeing the report, it's out, available for your edification if you have the stomach to read it. I don't have the stomach to read it. I don't. I feel like I know more than enough. I, like you, actually were eyewitnesses to these crimes, and many of them, and actually heard audio of other crimes that he was charged with. So it's like, I don't need to read the report. I already had him convicted in my court of just rationality and facts. So he escaped. Just unbelievable. Escaped. He got off with trying to deprive us of our votes, interfering with peaceful transfer of power, whatever. Defrauding. I guess defrauding the country was one of the actual charges. And Smith makes clear in the report that he feels he had a slam dunk case. And the only reason he didn't charge him with insurrection was that law, which is actually part of the Constitution enacted after the Civil War that was intended to keep officers from the Confederacy from holding office in the Union. The only reason Smith says he didn't go for the insurrection charge is, even though he felt he had the evidence, was the fact that Insurrection Act had not really been used much, certainly not in in the last century, and so it was unclear. There was no precedent for how the courts would. There was no, he said, no modern precedent, uh, and they felt they had him on enough charges, so they didn't need to. I guess part of the problem was, even in as much as it had been employed immediately after the Civil War, it had been used for people who were outside of the government who wanted to get in. And Smith says, we didn't find any case in which a defendant was charged with insurrection for acting within the government to maintain power. And so there'd never been a case like that, which is why they decided to let it go. And, we're left with the fact that there are still two defendants from this Trump created disaster. And they are, of course, two people who served him. And the force of the law still could come down on them. Although, frankly, I don't know. I doubt it. And that's his employees down at Mar-a-Lago who helped him hide the classified documents. I don't want to even talk about it because it's so unbelievable. Somebody pointed out not only does this guy, Teflon does not even begin to describe how he has managed his entire life to avoid having to pay for any of his crimes. Yeah, pay every once in a while. Yeah, you got to pay some money. Big deal. But this is just a rampant criminal. This is a guy who I doubt can get through 24 hours without probably committing a crime. And he just doesn't get touched. Someone, where I heard, even the assassination attempt here, he, of course, gets grazed, just touched enough to actually benefit him. While another man who was there dies. And that's the way it always seems to be with this guy. And so in a week, he will be the president of the United States again. And I don't know how I'm going to handle that. It's going to be hard to do the show because I don't want to deal with him. I won't be watching the inauguration. I couldn't bear it. I don't want to hear his voice. I don't want to look at that god-awful face. I just don't want to have anything to do with it, but I will, because I'm a good citizen. I will keep an eye on much of what he's up to. But God help us. Back to the fires, guys. I am so blown away by the people trying to politicize it immediately. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's like when there's a school shooting or a mass shooting, and folks like us start saying, gun control, and the Republicans always say, this is not the time. Stop politicizing this tragedy. But you see, it is the time with that, because it is a constant. We've all said those lines so many times. It's exactly the time. This is different. This is unlike anything we've ever seen in this country's history. A conflagration of this ferocity. And of course, the ferocity is fueled mostly by nature, by winds, hurricane force winds. And that takes us back to global warming. Oh, we're not supposed to say that anymore. Climate change, which a lot of Republicans, I guess, still don't believe in. So they've got to blame Democrats for causing this, what will be, I suspect, the most expensive natural disaster in American history. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just and and now that the Republicans are in control, we're already seeing uh, that the Republicans who control Congress are saying that aid to beleaguered Californians will have strings attached because that's how they roll. In a time of tragedy, they're still seeing it as an opportunity to use their muscle and their power. This jerk Republican congressman from Iowa said that California and any other Democratic controlled state that found itself in difficult circumstances would need to atone. That was his word, atone for bad behavior if they wanted any federal assistance. Now, these are people elected by our fellow Americans. Man, there is a nasty strain in Americans, a nasty, nasty strain. And this guy from Iowa isn't the only one. I mean, people in leadership positions are saying that. The Speaker of the House and others. I expect there will be strings attached to money that is approved because this was a gross failure. They're blaming this on Democrats. And I just, I don't know. Something I hadn't even thought of and popped up in my vision today in regard to this is um, this is the big award season for Hollywood. We've already had the Golden Globes and the Directors Guild, and the Academy Awards are due up next, I think. And they've already postponed the release of the nominees for Academy Awards. And it does seem like it would be, I mean, stop and think about it. With assuming that the venue that they hold it in survives the fires, I mean, it would seem grotesque to have, these beautiful people on the red carpet and acting like it's important to get a little statuette. It just would be, yeah, it, it doesn't seem right. And in fact, one actress who just won um, a Golden Globe uh, put out on Instagram, with all due respect, I hope any of the networks televising any upcoming awards ceremonies will consider not televising them and donating the revenue they would have gathered to victims of the fires. Um, well, it's hard to believe that's Jean Smart from Hacks. It's hard to believe. I mean, she surely encountered television executives like they would forego the advertising revenue of the Academy Awards and then turn around and give what revenue they would have gotten, what, to poor homeless and bereaved humans. um Gene, I just want to say, you've worked in the business for some time. They got their hearts, most of them, from the same place Donald Trump got his. Jeez. But there is something, yeah, untoward about it, and it'll be interesting to see what, in fact, they do. Um, Although somebody else has pointed out that the Hollywood economy, the people who work in the film industry, for most of them, it's a gig economy. You're not getting a paycheck, a regular paycheck. You're always trying to get gigs. And that is the way, not only actors themselves, but everybody who puts uh, television and all this stuff together generally work. And so other people have said, look, if you don't have the awards, you are depriving a whole bunch of people who live here from one of the biggest pay days and weeks of their year. Those would be all the, whatever, you name it, the makeup artists, the valets, the servers, the lighting crews, the security people, all of those people, gig workers, who always plan on making a ton of money with the Academy Awards, um, and many of whom will have lost their homes and God knows what else. You'd be depriving them of the ability to get a little bit of money. So you can see it's a real, I hadn't thought about it at all, but nothing's ever easy. You come up with what seems like you can't have the Academy Awards at a time like this. And then somebody makes an argument like that. But wait a minute, it's a gig economy. So what you could do is have the awards and have it be a somber affair. Do it. Everybody's got to do their job, put the show on, but have it be different. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the right thing is. Nothing's ever easy. Milton says, why would the Oscars be any more grotesque than the Los Angeles Rams game that was played last night? That was no game. That was a rout. Um, yeah, but they didn't play that game in LA, did they? No, I don't think. What do I know? I didn't watch it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. You know, we live in a time where the very idea of right and wrong is so is is so skewed or unimportant that those of us that do try to be on the morally correct side of things. I just don't know. I don't know. Anyway, just passing that on to you. Um, I just don't know where to. So Hegseth, this creep, this unbelievably. I mean, you can't find, other than maybe Matt Gates' AG, you can't make up a more outrageous nominee for a position than this Fox creep for defense. God. I mean, there's no reason to go into all the horrors about him. Although I did come across a quote from this airhead sexual abuser has managed to write a book, and this is something from his book. Okay, let me find it. Beyond belief, or not, as to whether or not I'll find it. Here it is. Oh, this is the book he wrote called An American Crusade. Yeah, that of course bringing up the Christian warriors. Onward, Christian warriors. Yeah, because this is a Christian country, and it's a white Christian country. Anyway, in his book, An American Crusade, he said he could well imagine having to use the U.S. military domestically. Mhm. And he's not talking about, believe me, he's not talking about the National Guard maybe helping firefighters. No, he's talking about using the U.S. military against fellow Americans. And he even says this in the book. He exhorts conservatives to undertake an American crusade to mock, humiliate, intimidate, and crush our leftist opponents. This is the guy who I got a feeling is going to head the Pentagon, and who not only doesn't have a problem using, uh, no matter what the Constitution says, using the military against us, but politicizing it so it is used as an instrument to just think of what kind of a mind even writes something like this, using the military to mock, humiliate, intimidate, and crush Democrats. That's the enemy. Whoa, whoa. Yeah, a lot of you are telling me the game was played in Arizona. Boy, all those wild card games, at least all the ones I was aware of, were god awful blowouts. Um, Okay. Um, I just, okay. Oh, one more thing with football, because I just sort of like this. There was um, the Eagles. Now I'm trying to remember which team. Oh, they destroyed my Packers. The Eagles are, still in the hunt, and during the game, I guess it was shown a number of times that one of their, like their really good receiver, Brown, when he wasn't in the game, he was, listen to this, he was seen reading a book. Yeah, not a playbook. He was seen reading a book. And the New York Times got on this immediately. It's the kind of story I do like. And it turns out that this guy, the book, is a book that he wouldn't just be reading, it had to do with not football, but with life and how you go about doing what you have to do well. So, in that regard, it's a self help book. But he swears by this book. He thinks it's helped him immeasurably. And I guess since he was seen reading the book sales have gone off the charts. It's called Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy. And I don't generally read self-help books, but that is not to say there are not, helpful things, good things written in them. Uh, and the Times story pulls four main points out of the book. And I read them. It's like bumper sticker stuff, but it's the kind of stuff that we would all, I thought I'll share them with you because these are obvious, but the kinds of things we all forget as we go about our day. And if we were to really focus on them and think about them and live our lives with them, we'd be happier and more productive and all that kind of stuff. It's true. So this is what A.J. Brown, the Eagles star receiver, was reading. And by the way, he's really good at what he does. So number one is give the best of what you have that day. Okay? Every day, just do the best you can. That's it. Number two, be present. Boy, that's something a lot of people need to work on. Be present, being in the place where there's no concern for self, no concern for the outcome. Now, I'm telling you right there that if you could and I could incorporate that one, would we be wondrous people? Whoa! Be present, being in the place where there's no concern for self, no concern for the outcome. Just be there. Whoa! Okay, number three, be grateful. This is one I've really been uh, working on myself because gratitude is something that no matter how awful things may be for you at any time, there is always reason to feel gratitude. And it's a lifesaver. I've always said that humor is my lifesaver, but I'll put gratitude right up there. So be grateful. Look for the smallest moments. And this guy says 3 a day if you're going to like try to do what the books say. 3 a day that were gifts to you. And the smaller, the better. And I agree. That's true. You know, when I went away, remember when I went away sometime in the summer, I think it was in July, for 3 weeks or so to get my head together because I just couldn't take it anymore. Um, I, did some of this self-help crap and you see my ambivalence. Um, and that was one of the things that I did take away: gratitude. Be grateful. And and if you start seeing reasons to be grateful, it can be in something that you otherwise would never have even noted, you know? The tiniest little thing. Nothing's too small. Something that made you smile, something that eased your way, something that helped, even something you witnessed. Whatever. And number 4, ladies and gentlemen, focus on only what you can control. There's another biggie. Because if we did all those things, so that's what the guy reading the book during the football game was reading about. And in these crazy times. Oh, speaking of crazy, I happened to have on the local news last night, which I rarely do, and I saw this. I still am wondering what the hell. I can tell you who he was. He must be a very rich man because he owns a steel company. In fact, the steel company that had first tried to buy US Steel. It's called Cleveland Cliffs. I'm saying, whoever heard of it? I haven't. Cleveland Cliffs. The temerity, the gall trying to buy US Steel, which is what then got Nippon in Japan to say, no, 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 let us buy it. And they so upped the offer that US Steel said, oh, yeah, baby, you can have us. Right. And then, all hell broke loose. And I have already said, I really think uh, that this national security concern about it is bullshit. I do. I do. And if you saw the head of Cleveland Cliffs, who I guess was in town, because they're on the local Pittsburgh news, there he was, and he was screaming at the top of his lungs what should have just been a regular sentence. I don't know what he looked deranged. Did you see it? His name was, I wrote it down. What was his name? Uh, Gonzalez? I wrote it down, but I can't find where I wrote it down. He was bizarre. And he was squawking about keeping it in America. We got to keep it in America. And the weird thing was, he barely spoke English. I swear. He had some strange accent. I'm talking about him. I felt like I'd fallen down a rabbit hole. I really had. That this guy was a CEO of anything and that he felt he was comporting himself in a proper manner to hold some kind of a news conference and literally scream like a banshee at the top of his lungs. If you didn't see it, I'm telling you, go look. It's mind blowing. And that's the guy who wants to buy US Steel? No! For national security reasons. I say no! Okay. Guzzling something. Um, there's lots of there's lots of negative stuff out there now because there's lots of negative stuff. Um, Ezra Klein wrote something about all the things, that you have reason to be like, I'm running for the exits. There's just, it's getting absurd. Um, he talked about, Trump and our government being taken over, and the fact that our fellow Americans, knowing this guy was the vulgar criminal he was, they still elected him over a fine, upstanding woman. Anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm just saying, we all know this. And so Klein was talking about the fact that, oh God, we got Trump, we got, artificial intelligence about to totally take our lives over and transform everything. So we won't know what the hell's going on. The planet is clearly warming to the point where terror, it's frightening. And the other thing he pointed out was something I don't think about because I often think it's a good thing, but I guess it's not. The global fertility rate is literally collapsing. There's not an industrialized country, not a wealthy country in the world, I think, except Israel. That was the outlier. Except Israel, that is producing enough babies to replace those who are dying. Um, and it's not like we don't get it. We get it in many ways. But this is, I guess, a negative. Um, and Ezra Klein says, all this stuff that's going on, these trends that are worrisome. If you look at any one, or even one little part of one in isolation, you end up missing what they collectively represent. In other words, you can't see the forest for the trees. And what they collectively represent is the unsteady, unpredictable emergence of a different world. You wonder why people are so nuts right now? It's because they and we are living in a time that is a time of transition. These are always not great times to be alive. A time of huge transition. It ain't just the industrial revolution. It's the technical revolution, the climate revolution, on and on. This is a complexity that humans, individual and collectively, are not designed to handle. And as such, uh, we start to see the things that is happening. So that much of what we took for granted in our lives, from when flowers start blooming in the spring, what winters are like and when they happen, where hurricanes kill people, uh, uh, birth rates, political institutions, all of this stuff that was steady in our lives up until very recently. It's all breaking down. And the consequence of that breakdown is somebody like Donald Trump is reelected. That's one consequence. And what is happening is that technologies and movements that are going to upend our lives are breaking through. And I pulled this out of what Klein says. Any one of these challenges would be more than enough on its own. But together they augur a new and frightening era. And I share this with you not to depress you, but to in fact let you know that we're all in this together. None of us are alone. We're all dealing with this. We have reason to be fearful, okay? And we got no choice. So again, looking for things to be grateful for, be grateful that we have this each other. And Klein says, I find myself returning to a famous translation of a line from Antonio Gramsci. And I thought, who's Antonio Gramsci? So I looked him up. He looks like somebody else. I think he actually looks like Emma Goldman. I know that seems odd, but they have stuff in common too. They were both, commies. This guy was in Italy, and he was a big, big opponent of Benito Mussolini, which puts him in my camp. And he must have said this as he watched his world collapsing with fascism coming. And he didn't even live to see World War II. But he said this, and this is what, and it's not pleasant, but it turned out to be prescient, and Klein thinks it's probably prescient again. The old world is dying, and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters. I'm going to remember that quote on January 20th, Monday, when a monster takes the oath that he has already broken so many times, it's a joke. Um, Laura writes, there are already too many people on the planet. Always not enough housing. Deforestation is too high. I get not enough babies, but like trickle down at award shows, so goes low births. But like trickle down at award shows. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Oh, God help us. Oh, and speaking of babies, and this is more pleasant. Let me Alexandra Petrie, I think, or Petrie. Who the hell knows? Do you know how often I say somebody's name and then I say, well, of course you do. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I don't know. She is a columnist for the Washington Post, and she uh, somehow manages to make you laugh. She does, funny commentary, but she didn't do a very funny one today. And I read it, and some of it was really lovely, and I wanted to share it with you. And it's in keeping with what we're talking about, um, because it turns out she's on maternity leave, and because this, I guess, can go without saying, but I hear myself about to say it because she's pregnant. And in part, she says this: your tiny, not quite foot is prodding me in the side as I type this. I am so excited to meet you. I'm trying to think what to tell you about the world. This is important. We exist in time. Whenever someone is born, it opens a window into time, a glimpse of the universe that stretches from the moment your eyes first blink open until they finally shut. This is about to be your window. For the most part, I like existing in time. And here's where you can tell she is somebody who is aware of her gratitude. She writes, I like that today is cold, so cold that my breath makes a little cloud when I exhale. I like that every day on an identical walk, there is still something new to see. An interesting truck, or a bright leaf tree, or a too optimistic sign about not peeing somewhere, which is addressed to a dog. I like the little changes that smuggle autumn into summer and spring into winter. I like seeing the first skeleton pop up in a neighbor's window and the first Christmas tree. I like hearing one song again and again and again all summer long, everywhere, until it becomes steeped inextricably in that specific year's season. I'm going to cut ahead here. So I feel apologetic now for the feeling I have that things used to be better. That is no way to feel when I am trying to introduce you around. It's not always like this, I want to say. I I hate that I'm old enough to remember a time when things were better, both big things and little things. And then she goes into so much of what has changed. Um, it is grim to know that things can be better because they were better and now they aren't. It could make you hopeful or the opposite. And I want you to be hopeful. I want you to be so many things. Right now, we exist in a state where every possibility is superimposed on every other possibility, all fluttering together in wonderful contradictions that will resolve into the miraculous stillness of your actual existence. You will be revealed in time. And I hope, too, that you will use your time to help pull back the curtain on the world I know is still there. Somewhere soon we will be opening a window. It will be your window, and I hope you mostly like what you see when you look out of it. The rest we can work on. I hope you believe me when I tell you what I can still see. I am so excited to share the view with you for however long we have. So there's somebody who gets it, and she's bringing a new life into the world. And hang on here. And I just think it was beautifully done. Gigi saying, but did you see the quote from this jerk from Cleveland Clils? The telling quote from his name is Gonkels is, people say we will control the market. How can I control the market if I can't control my own wife? Oh my God. I didn't hear that one. What a vile man. And did he scream that too? Oh my God. That's the guy who wants to buy US Steel. Oh God. Ugh. Okay. Um, and now I am about to pepper you with a few factoids. Okay? just because I can. Okay? Um, so Trump's new, well, yes, his new, what do you call them? Chief of staff is a woman, Susie Wiles. She ran his campaign as well, right? So we know she's capable. She managed to get that vulgar felon reelected. Unfriggin' believable. So here's something I found out about her, which you may well know, but I just found out, and I'm going to share it with you. She grew up with an alcoholic. Her father was an alcoholic football player. Just saying. Played for the Giants. And you probably know the name because after football, he became a broadcaster. She's Pat Summerall's daughter. I didn't know that. Did you? Anyway, I found it an interesting factoid. And, by his own account, he says he was an alcoholic. And she spent her life as a child navigating a pretty tumultuous home life because of him. And but also because of him, she had connections. So when she finally escaped the house and went to the University of Washington or Maryland, she got a part-time job with Representative Jack Kemp, who you may recall. I believe he was, I thought he was New Jersey, but maybe he's New York, whatever. And she had an inroad to Jack Kemp because he had been a football player who played with her dad, Pat Summerall, on the New York Giants. Okay. So she was able to get into that's how she got into politics, through football connections. And then from Kemp, she ended up with the Reagan campaign and ended up in the Reagan White House. And now she's back in the White House with Trump. Just a little factoid there. Okay. Here's something for the life of me, cannot comprehend. Or yes, I can. I find it fascinating. Our senator, John Fetterman. He, I'm not surprised, that he keeps sort of doing this shape shifting stuff, because I've always, and anyone who recalls how I've responded to Fetterman throughout his beginnings in politics, is I've always been a little leery, and have had the sense that he's I hate to say this, because he's not as bad, but there is a Trumpian aspect to him in that he loves to present as an outlier. He loves to flout the rules. His politics are hard to pin down. And what we're seeing now is he has an appreciation for Trump because he sees him as someone who knows how to use media, knows how to drive a narrative, knows how to overcome seemingly impossible obstacles. And I think Fetterman looks at Trump and says, whoa, I'm going to learn from this guy. Which tells us what? Fetterman's ambitions are huge. And I think what he sees is that the voters, even James Carville used this term the other day about what Democrats have to do to win again. He used the word authenticity or authentic. And Fetterman knows that he is seen as authentic, which is a huge step up. He also is not the usual, which is, again, a plus. He ain't a lawyer, right? He might be Harvard educated, but, well, can't help that. But I have to tell you, I think, I'm saying all this because I heard that he's spoken to Trump and he's been invited to go visit Trump and he accepted. And there's not another Democratic office holder who has done that. And somewhere, I don't know where, somewhere I saw that, I'll find it, what he said about Trump. And it shows, again, what I am saying. It shows an appreciation of somebody who's in the same line of work, playing the same game and really defying expectations, which is something Fetterman does. So, says here, I'm the senator, here's Fetterman's words, I'm the senator for all Pennsylvanians, not just Democrats. I've been clear that no one is my gatekeeper. I will meet with and have a conversation with anyone if it helps me deliver for Pennsylvania and the nation. Okay, fine. All right. Then he said, the constant freak out by Democrats over Trump is not helpful. He called Trump a, quote, singular political talent, see? And he disavowed the label fascist that Democrats have used against Trump. Fetterman says, it's not a word I would use. I happen to love people that are going to vote for Trump, and they are not fascists. Here is a guy who is setting himself up to win again in Pennsylvania. I'll tell you that, a state that went for Trump. He will win again in Pennsylvania. And because he's part of a party that is so unsettled now, and because he is that kind of authentic, not what you expect guy who could attract voters that otherwise don't show up, I would say if he hadn't had the stroke, he'd be going strong now. But he did have that stroke. And his health, I think, is a serious impediment. But if he hadn't had the stroke, this is a guy who could well end up as president. in this current age. Whether you like him or not. He is somebody always worth watching because he too understands the game and knows that the outsider, the surpriser, gets attention and often is seen as that most important thing, authentic. Just saying. Keep an eye on him. He's our guy. All right, that's it for me today. I am so glad I got this up and running. You can only imagine how I was fulminating yesterday, attempting to get the show up. I had everything but audio, and no amount of shouting got me any audio. So there you have it. Anyway, guys, yeah, I'll talk at you tomorrow. Susan will be joining me. Okay. Thank you very much for being here, and I'll try to end this baby.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.